Let us look at another interesting topic in Java. And this topic is about interfaces in Java. I'm Manibhushan D'Souza. Let's continue with our subject. We are familiar with the abstract classes. Now, what is an abstract class? We know that in Java, we can create a class. Let me create a class here. I'm going to just call this class as just A for brevity. And within the class, you can create methods. So let me declare a method inside it. Let me assume that the method does not return anything. And I'm going to call this one as my method 1. Okay. And it does not take anything. Now, generally, we provide the body or the implementation for the method. But what if we don't provide a implementation? Now, if you don't provide an implementation, that means to say that within this class, we are not providing any definition for the given method. And such a method, as you notice over here, must be mentioned as abstract method. Okay, so I'm going to say that this is an abstract method. Okay. Now, once I'm going to just make it as other way around. I don't my system is slightly slow. Okay, so I'm going to make it as an abstract method. So this abstract method indicates that there is no body for the given method, and the class that has the abstract method, we are going to call this one as an abstract class. So we are all familiar with this. So an abstract class is a class that has at least one method whose body or whose definition is not provided. It has only the declaration for a given method. We are familiar with that particular thing. Okay, so abstract method just provides a signature of the method but does not provide any implementation for a given method. Now, the class that implements this particular class, which is an abstract class, must provide its own implementation. Where do we use the abstract classes? Now, just take an example wherein you are deriving a class called as a vehicle. Now, we know that a vehicle can move forward, a vehicle can move backward, vehicle can turn left, vehicle can turn right. Now, the problem with this is there are different types of vehicles are there. We have cars which have a very different implementation for moving forward, moving backward, turning left and turning right. At the same time, we may have a bike or a scooter which may have a very different methods for turning right, left, forward and backward. Now, you know very well, a car has a rear gear or a reverse gear which you can always use to move backward. Whereas in the bike, we generally, if it is not an electrical vehicle, we generally don't have something called as a reverse gear. So, now this implementation, that is moving backward, may be different for a car and may be different for a bike. So when I say that it is a vehicle, a general purpose vehicle, so when I say that this is a vehicle definition, I'm not very sure how to move it forward or backward, because I am not specific about whether it is a bike or whether it is a car or whether it is a bike. Okay. So what I know that is if it is a vehicle, it must have a provision for moving forward, it must have a provision for moving backward, it must have a provision for turning left, turning right, and maybe moving and doing something else also. Okay, so I write all the methods here, but I do not provide any implementation for that particular method. So what I do in turn is I create a abstract class. So I create an abstract class and then say that any class that implements this particular vehicle class must provide the implementation. Now let's look at one example over here. Suppose if I go over here and if I create a vehicle class, so let me create a class called as a vehicle. Okay, then I can make that vehicle class as an abstract class. Why I have to make it as an abstract class? Because I am not going to provide any implementation for many of the methods. So let me say that void move forward. I'm going to say that thing. Okay, now because it is an abstract, I'm going to say abstract. This is an abstract method, so I'm going to say abstract move forward, and I'm not going to type the whole thing again. So I'm going to say move backward. Okay, also I can give the abstract method saying that move left, and let me provide the last method, and that will be the move right. Okay, so you notice that all the methods here are abstract methods. So I cannot instantiate the vehicle. I can't create a vehicle instance. So if I go over here to my main method, and if I say vehicle, if I say a vehicle, v is equal to new vehicle. If I do this particular thing, and if I try to do this one, NetBeans will actually provide the implementation for all of them. I'm going to just remove this one, don't get confused. NetBeans knows very well that that particular class is not yet declared. So suppose if I do like this, I get an error message saying that, then the error message is very obvious, and the error message says that if you look at this particular error message, the error message says that it's an abstract class and it cannot be instantiated. Now, if at all I want to instantiate this method, then I have to create some other class. So if I create a Java class called as car, and if I say that this particular car, it implements all the methods of that particular class, then I have to say this particular class extends the vehicle class. Now if I say that it extends the vehicle class, I am going to get a error message saying that I have to implement all the methods which are there within that class. So I'm going to just say, implement all the abstract method. So now I get the definition, even though I have not typed anything. NetBeans will do that for me, saying that it's going to just create the body for all the methods which are declared here as an abstract, and it's going to create the concrete methods for here, even though it's going to give you a message saying that that particular method is not yet implemented. But just to give you an analogy how it's going to go is that it's going to create the method body for all of them. I'm going to just remove that template that it has created. So you notice over here that it just created dummy methods for me. So this class, which is extending from the vehicle, and the vehicle class you know very well is an abstract class, is now concrete class because there is something that it can do. Assume that I'm going to write something over here, the actual implementation. I'm going to write it over here. So now if I go to my demonstration here, car, if I say car C is equal to new car, if I do that thing, there is no problem at all because the car is a concrete class. This is what you are familiar with it. So now let me come back to the thing over here. So you are familiar with the abstract class. So abstract class is a class that has at least one method. There must be one method which is just declared. Its definition is not been given, or its implementation is not yet given. Suppose if you have a situation like this. So if you look at the one that I have shown over here, vehicle. Now in this vehicle, none of the methods are complete. All of them are abstract methods. So when you have this kind of situation, instead of creating a class, I can create a interface. So instead of calling this as a class, I can say that this is a interface. Now what is an interface? Interface is like a class. It's almost like a class, but with the only difference is that none of its method, if I remove this, I will not get any error message. None of its method, by definition, none of its method are complete. What is the meaning of saying that? There is no body for any of the method which are declared inside the interface. So interface is like an abstract class. Everything looks exactly like a class. You don't get any error for this one. The reason is that it is like a class, but the word we are using is an interface. And what is the other one? Other important thing is this particular class or this particular interface has all its method as abstract, because all the methods are by definition abstract. I don't have to explicitly say that this is an abstract method, because definition of the interface itself says that it is a abstract method. So whatever you write in the interface, all of them are abstract. So let's go to the definition. So a interface is syntactically similar to an abstract class, and what is very important thing over interface is that no method has a body. So that is what I have shown there. There is no body for any of the method. Okay. One of the good thing about it is, once you create a interface, it can be implemented by any number of classes. So what is the meaning of that is, once I create the, let me go over here, once I create a interface, it can be implemented. Remember, you are not extending it. There is nothing to be extended, because there is no methods are complete over here. See, if there is one method is there, and if there is some body for that method, then you can think of extending that method. But here none of the methods are there, only the names of the methods are there. So we don't say that. For any class we don't say extends, instead we use the word implements. So look at the difference here. So car implements that method. Okay, so that is the meaning of that. Now I get an error because it is not something that you are trying to override. Okay. Okay, so let me remove all these things. So this is what you get it. So look at the difference. Last time I told that it is extending. It is not extending, it is implementing. So whenever you create a did I go for this one interface, you don't need to say that it is an abstract again. Let me put that thing. You don't need to say anything over here. You just have to say that it is an interface. There is no need to write abstract interface, because interface itself says that. What is the definition of interface? Interface is a collection of methods. That's all. Method declaration. That's all. It's a collection of method declaration. There is no body for that method. Any class which wants to implement that interface must write the body for all these methods. So I'm going to use the help of my NetBeans and implement all of them. Now again, you know very well, whenever you try to do that, NetBeans is going to say that there is no uh, implementation for that. I'm going to just override that particular thing. I'm going to just override this particular thing. And now I'm going to just say that, okay, we have all these methods, and none of the methods, if you look at here, none of the methods are have any implementation. That is what the NetBeans is doing. NetBeans will not doesn't know what the how to move the car forward, how to move the car right, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in the when we look at a class that implements the vehicle, there is a body. Now again, I have not written the body because it was created by the NetBeans, and NetBeans definitely doesn't know how a car moves forward or how a car moves backward. So I am supposed to do it. Now assume that I am going to give the implementation here. I'm going to show the implementation here. Assume that I'm going to type something, some code over here, but you get the idea. So what we are doing over here is, let me give it in a very simple way. So you create a interface. So here you create a interface, and then what you do is you create a class, and you say that this particular class implements that interface. So what is the meaning of saying implements that interface? I am going to write the body. I am going to write the body for all the methods. You may have one method, two method, three method, four method, or anything. You are saying that I am going to write the body for all the methods which are declared over here. So whichever method is there, I will write the body for that particular method. So it is like you are making a contract. You are telling the interface that so in the contract, what you do is, when you give the contract, you ask the other person to carry out something. So during the road construction, they gave the contract. So what is the meaning of saying giving contract? Contract says that you have to build the road, you have to build the bridge. So in other words, you have to carry out something. In the same way, so there is an interface called as vehicle, and what the car says, I am going to carry out all the methods. So what is the meaning of saying I am going to carry out is I am not moving forward or nothing. I am going to write the actual implementation, actual code for moving forward, actual code for moving backward, actual code for moving left and right, and so on and so forth. So the car, the vehicle over here, it is not saying how to move forward, how to move backward. That the steps are not there. It's just an abstract method. It just says that if it is a vehicle, there must be a provision for moving forward, there must be a provision for moving backward, there must be a provision for moving left, there must be a provision for moving right. But it does not say that how to move forward, how to move backward, how to move left and right. So the car says that I will tell you how a car moves forward, how a car moves backward, and how a car goes left, right, or so and so forth. So that means it says it agrees to carry out those steps. So that is the idea of the interface. So what is a interface? It is similar to a class, so abstract class, but only difference here is all the methods in the interface is abstract. So what is the one difference between an abstract class and an interface? A abstract class can also have a concrete method. So remember here, let me give you a simple example over here. So if I create a abstract class over here, so one of its method is incomplete, I can say there is a method 2, and then I can say something out. Okay, this is method 2. Now what you have in the abstract method, it's one of its method. If you look at here, one of its method does not have the body. But if you look at the second method, the second method has a body. Never, you may say that okay, one line you have written, but just for the brevity, there is a body for the one method. So one method does not have the implementation. The other method has the implementation. You may have one more method. that may not have any implementation, and you may have one more method. Remember, whenever I say that the method does not have an implementation, the Java says that it must be declared as abstract. Then you may have you may have one more method. So let's say method number 4, it may have some implementation and so on and so forth. Now it doesn't mean that they have to come alternatively, so you can just put them all of them at one place and other at the other place. So you may have some methods which are incomplete, some methods which are complete. That is allowed in the abstract class. But what about interface? In the interface, there is only abstract methods are there. You don't have any complete method. Like this method with the body cannot be written in the interface. What if I try to do it? Now, because I'm using Java 8, the version 8 point something, now it is allowed, so I will not confuse you. Remember, when they start with something, they start with the simple things, but as the things go forward and forward, they make changes to it. Okay, now I am giving you the simplest definition and I don't want you to get confused. Just for the brevity, always assume that whenever you have an interface does not have a concrete method. Okay, but from the version 8.1, now I'm confusing you. If you don't want to get confused, don't listen to me, just make mute now and I will tell you when to start. So from 8.1, they say that there can be a method, so private method and a default method and so on and so forth. They started making some changes to this one, but your syllabus is a very old syllabus. So according to your syllabus, now I am confusing you, but according to your syllabus, the interface does not have any concrete method. So according to your syllabus, it is true. But is it really true? According to the Java that you are using today, as of 2021, today, if you say this statement is not valid, okay, because of some reason. But when I started with the same thing, but then I learned something different. Not I learned, Java people made changes, and then they said that there are some problem that occurs if you start doing with the interface. Let me cover this part and I will not confuse you. So you start with the wrong thing, then you correct it later. So let's go ahead with the interface. Now, to implement a interface, what the class must do is class must provide the body for all the methods which are described in the interface. Okay, now as I told you, a class is free to provide its own implementation. For example, I created something called as a vehicle. Now car has its own implementation for moving left, moving right, and so on and so forth, and bike has its own way of moving left, moving right, and so on and so forth. So every class that implements an interface is free to have its own method. So does not mean that, so if I create a car class here which implements the vehicle, the same method must be there even in the bike. It is not possible, you know very well. If you want to move left, what you are doing in the car, you have to take the steering wheel and then turn it, but in the bike you have a handle. How do you turn that? If you start turning it, you will skid and fall down. Okay, it's not going to work. Understood. Okay, so how do you move forward? You have to pedal on the accelerator, but in the bike, you know very well, accelerator, there is no pedal. It is there in the handle. You have to turn up the acceleration. So the implementation, at least if you are not used the bike, you know how to use your scooty, and in your scooty, you know very well the acceleration, you can just turn up to raise the acceleration, but that's not the case in the car. You don't have that provision. In the car, you have to pedal on the accelerator so that it moves forward. Okay, again, if you're using scooty, all the brakes are there in your hand, but in the car the brakes are there on the legs. You have to pedal on that. Okay, and if you're using, definitely if you're using a scooty, Activa or Access or any, I'm not going to give the names of the companies, but if you are using a scooty, you know very well there is no gear. but the cars in general have gears, but definitely you get gearless also nowadays, automatic transmission type, but that's a different issue altogether. But you know very well that even if there is a gear in your bike or in your scooter, the way in which you change the gear in car and the way in which you change the gear in scooter, they are different. So that means to say that implementation of moving forward in car is different from implementation of moving forward in bike or in scooter for that matter. So now let's come back to this. Okay, thus two classes can implement the same interface in different way. Now, just to give you an example. Now, most of you have in today's scenario, most of you have traveled from Udupi towards either Kundapur or towards Mangalore or towards Shivamogga or anyway. You have noticed that somewhere they are building the bridges, not a very large bridges, the bridges for the gutters. Now, different companies are building that bridges. So, what the government has told those companies, you implement or you build the bridge. That's all. How they build the bridge, it is up to the contracting company. So one company may build the bridge with straight. They may just put four pillars over there, and then they may just build a bridge like this, the pillars and supports and other thing. The other company may put some extra thing, like you have seen this beautiful bridges like this. They may build a beautiful bridge like this. How they build the bridge and what must be the size of this pillar and so on and so forth. This is all dependent on the contracting company. So not not all the bridges are same. Even though you see the bridges when you go from Mangalore to Udupi or Udupi to Kundapura, you will see the bridges, the smaller bridges or the flyovers for that matter. They are not the same. Their width, their length, they are not the same. But what the government has told, I want you to build the bridge. How you build the bridge, that is left to the company. So in other words, government has provided an interface, and this contracting, the construction company has implemented that interface. So government is providing an interface saying to the company that I want you to build. So that is the contract. So they have built a contract. So PWD people have built a contract, and this contract is taken by the constructing companies, and according to the specification, they have built the bridges or they have built the road. So government has left it to the company. So they don't say that we will give you the money, but you build it. So whether you require JCB or whether you require truck, that is I don't know. You build it and give it to us. So that is the contract. In when we talk the same idea of contract in Java, what we say is we provide an interface. We provide the interface. Whoever who implements the interface must carry out those classes. So as simple as that. So the class will implement the interface. So there is a contract between a class and interface. So what the class says, whatever method you have, I'm going to implement it. So that's the idea that we have. So in general, how do you write a interface? Remember, whenever you write a interface, let me go to the NetBeans and let me show you the interface. You say public interface, that's a keyword, followed by the name of the interface. Then you say method name, and if the method is taking some parameter, for example, if you are having a method called as a void change gear, suppose if you have something int gear number, if something is there, so this is the method. Okay, so you write the return type, name of the method, and if it is taking some parameter, you write that parameter. So this is what is written over here. So return type, oops, sorry, where is that thing gone? Okay, return type, method name, parameter list, and so on and so forth. We can also create variables inside interface. So I can create a variable inside interface. For example, this is an interface. You notice that this is an interface. I can say that int x equal to 10. I can create a variable. Okay, how you create a variable, you know very well. So I can create a variable, any variable of my type. So any data type I can create. Let me go to the next slide in there. Okay, now let's look at the access permission. This is what one of the important thing that you must understand whenever we talk about the Java. So whether the interface is visible to everyone or whether it is not visible to anyone. So whenever you say you have a interface, you can either say public or you can keep it blank, like class. Same idea. So if you say public interface, or if you don't specify anything, can you guess what is the permission that it is going to give, or what is the accessibility that it's going to give? It is the default. Remember, again, you don't write the default here. If you don't write anything over here, it means it is a default. So what is the meaning of saying default? Can you recall what you have studied in your uh, previous classes? So if it is a default, that means if it is a class, it is available to all the classes. If it's a class is a default, then that class is available to all the classes within the same package, but not to a class outside this package. It is not allowed. In the same way, if you say that if you create a interface and if you don't specify public keyword in front of it, that means that interface is available to all the classes or all the interfaces or anything which is there in the same package. All of them can use it, but not anybody who is outside this package. So that's the same analogy works even in case of interface. So if no access modifier is specified, that means it is a default access. And what does it says? Okay, it's available only inside this package. If it is declared as public, that means it is available to all the objects or all the classes on the interfaces within the package, as well as anybody who is outside this particular package. It is publicly visible. So as simple as that. Now there is one other important thing about the interface, and that is all the methods are implicitly assumed to be public. You don't write it, it means it is a public. Okay, so why it must be public? Because it must be available. So remember, what you write in an interface, what's a very important thing about interface is that what you write here is you don't write the method. That means this must be visible to someone else so that they can override it. Suppose if you hide it, if you make this one as a private, it is not available to others can't see what is that method. How can they override that method? Remember, the car cannot see that there is a method called as move forwards, and how can this car then override that particular method? So you must make it visible to the others. So you have to say that whether you say it or not, it is assumed to be public. You don't, if you don't say also, it is public only. So all the implicitly all the methods are public. Okay, now next comes to the variable. So I just created a variable. Now very important thing about the variables is whenever you create a variable in your classes, when you create a variable, you just say int y and just put equal to. Now that's not going to work with the Java. So very with the interface. If you notice here, I'm going to just zoom in for you. If you notice over here, you will notice that the constant name does not follow naming convention. That's the first thing. I will do that thing. Now what is this naming convention is, if it is a constant, it is a convention. Okay, what do we mean by saying a convention? Convention is if you are traveling, if you know how to ride a vehicle in India, you are supposed to ride the vehicle on the left hand side. Keep the right hand side for the upcoming vehicles. But if you go to some other foreign countries, America and other, they are riding in the other way around. So what they do is they are going to the right hand side and they are driving. So what do I mean by saying that is, suppose if you have a road like this. Suppose if this is a road, let's assume that this is a road here, and you are driving your scooty or other thing. You are supposed to be there on the left lane. So you are supposed to be there on the left lane. India, it is the convention. You you are traveling like this. So if you are traveling like this, my mouse is very slow. So if you're traveling like this, in this direction, then it is the other way around. And if you are traveling, let me zoom out for you. Okay, I think if you're traveling this way, this is for the upcoming traffic. This is for the ongoing traffic. Now this is in India, but if you go to America, then the traveling is this route is for going up and this is for going down. This is a convention. Now you are supposed to follow that convention. If you don't follow the convention, what will happen? You may end up, if you are traveling in India, you may end up, when you open your eyes, you may find yourself in a hospital with a lot of bandages. So you have to follow the convention. Not that it is not possible. Some people will drive in the right hand side also. Some crazy people will drive. Sometimes if urgently they want to go, they will drive in the right hand side, but that is they are taking their risk. Now here also in Java, the people say that convention is, if you are putting a constant according to the convention, if you're putting the constant, put the letter in capitals. All the constant, put the letter in capitals. That's a convention. It is not that you cannot put it. If I put the X over here, it is not wrong, but it is not the convention. It's not good thing. So if you travel in bus, there is something called as a ladies seat. Now it is not that you gents can sit there, but if you find a gent sitting there, it is not a convention. It's not, you don't fight with them, you don't quarrel with them, but it is not the convention that they are following it. Okay, so in the same way, when we say in Java, if you are declaring a constant, it must be in capital. Now forget about the convention. Now I'm going to come to the error. Now you notice that when I try to do it, I get a error here. And what does the error say? It says that I expect you to give a initial value. So give me some initial value. So that's what it says. It says give me some initial value. So what is the meaning of it? You cannot simply declare a variable. You have to give a value to the variable. Why? Because all these variables that you have created are constants, these whose values cannot be changed. So you declare only constant there. So all the variables which are declared over here are constant. How do you make constant in Java? Okay, if that question is asked. So constants are public final. Also they are static. What is the meaning of saying static? Static is, hope you know very well what's the difference between a static keyword. Why do you put a static keyword? Static means it is a part of that definition. So in other words, it's a part of the interface itself. It is not part of the object that is being created with it. Okay, so by implicitly or by definition, all the variables that you declare are constants. Okay, in other words, they are public, final and static. Whether you mention it or not, it is public, it is final, it is static. Okay, so let's look at how a interface is being created. Now I have already created an interface. So you have an interface called a series, and you have some method get next. Remember, it is an interface, so there is no body for this particular thing. There is a reset, there is again no body, there is a set start, there is only the declaration, no body. So this is why it is an interface. Whether you write public here or not, it does not make a difference because it is public. Okay, it is an obvious one. Okay, to implement an interface, what you are supposed to do, a class must use a keyword called as implements. So the class has to use a word implements in order to implement it. So you know very well, when you create a class, two things you can write. You say class, which is a keyword, name of the class, Then you can say extend. When do you use the word extend? You use the extend when you want to implement a class. I mean, when you want to extend a class. So where is it going to come? It's going to come during the inheritance. If you want to inherit a class, not implement, inherit a class, then you say you are inheriting from a superclass. So how do you say? Your class extends the superclass, but your class implements a interface. Remember the difference. Extending a superclass, implementing a interface. So this is what you write it. Okay. Now, other one important thing is the methods that you implement must be declared as public. So that is obvious one, because you know very well in the interface all the methods are public, and that's why they must be available. And the other very important thing is the type signature must match exactly with that of a signature. So what is the meaning of it? I'm going to just talk about this particular thing. Now I'll go here to my class, and one of its method, if I just save it, it must give me, say, one of its method is not been implemented. So let me write that thing. Now you notice over here, forget about this one. So just pretend that you don't see that one uh, line there. Now let's look at a method. Now what method I have here is, I'm going to talk about this method. Let me say this is int here. Okay, int or double, let's say. Who cares? Okay, double, because I'm not going to write any implementation for that. A double, and I'm going to just return 0.0. Okay, so something I'm returning. So I'm supposed to return something. That is why I said I'm going to return double. That is why I wrote a return statement. Otherwise, the NetBeans will again say that no, this you are supposed to return double. So return something to me. So I'm just writing it. Now let's look at the interface. Now I'm in the interface. So let me show you that I'm in the interface, and there is a method that takes int. Okay, and it returns double. Now when I implement it, I have to implement in the same way, int. Now I cannot say it is a string here. Now if I say string here, then this is not matching with the original one. What is the original one? Original one, it is int here. So when it is int here, in the implementation it must be int here. You cannot say it is something different. So can I make it as long here? So if I make it as long, what will happen? You notice that again it says no, you can't do that thing. It is not matching with that. So if I make it as int, it's going to work. Can I put one more int? Okay, maybe say press clutch, let's say. If you put something, now you're changing the gear. So there is a int gear number, there is a press clutch is there, one method, something it is taking input, but it is not matching. Why it is not matching? Look at the original definition. Original definition, only one input is there. So if you notice over here, only one parameter is there. But what I am doing when I'm implementing it, I have two things: one gear number and one press clutch, which is not allowed. This is not the original signature as that of this one. So when you are overriding, it must be same. Now the question comes, a very important question comes, is most of the students will get confused. Now what is written here is G number. Can you see there, G number? Can I put X here? So most of the students don't get this one. Can I put the X here? I put the X, there is no error. You notice that there is no error. So is it correct? Now some of them they'll think that no, this is a gear number, G number, so this must also be G number. It need not be. That's a variable name. Remember, the names of the variable can change, but the data type cannot change. Now if it is an integer, it must be integer. Okay, if it is y here, just to say, it can be x here, because it's a variable name. Variable, it does not bother about the variable. It just checks the data type. Is it int here? in the implementation. Is it int here? Then it is correct. Suppose after int, if you have a double x, is it allowed? Now x is double here, but some of them say, oh, x is int here. It is not. Remember, you can say double y here. This is not going to make any difference. But what is important? What is important over here is first one is int, second one is double. First one is int, second one is double. The variable will not make any difference. Okay, so that is very important. It's going to just check the data types. How many are there? Two parameters are passed. First one is int, second one is double. Two parameters are passed. First one is int, second one is double. It's going to work. Now, can I do like this? Now, the next question that comes to you is, can I do like this? The answer, if you notice over here, the answer is no, it's not possible. Why? There are two parameters. First one is double and second one is int. But in the definition, what is given? There are two parameters, no doubt, but the first one is integer. Second one is double. So, but what you have done? You have interchanged it. So, two parameters may be there, but they are not in the same order. So, be careful with it. So, whatever it is written there, it must exactly match the thing over here, except for the variable name. Can I change the name of the method? Gears, if I make it, it is obviously it is not matching because this is gears and this is gear. The method name itself is not matching, so that's not allowed. Hope you get the idea of this one, the signature that I am talking about. So the type signature must match exactly with the that is specified in the interface definition. So the one example that I've just given you here is this is an interface I just gave you with the next method, reset method, and the set start method. If this interface has to be implemented by a class, what that class will do? So class by to implement. So remember the word is implement. The class implements the interface, and you have to write the body for all the methods which are defined in the interface. Remember, then you can have the class can have its own method. So there is nothing that the class has to have only those methods. A class can have its own methods. What do I mean by saying that is, so this car has those many method. So which are there are four methods are there, 1 2 3 4 5 methods are there. Class has implemented 1 2 3 4 5 methods are there. I can also create one other method, public void, just to say blow horn. Okay, and maybe impact x, how much you have to, what is the impact factor, whether you have to blow it very fast, impact, let's say int impact, not impact x. What is the, whether you are going to blow it for 1 minute or let's say minutes or seconds, how many seconds you have to blow that horn. So let's say you're blowing a horn, how many seconds, whether it is for very long or short. Now this was not there, blow horn is not there in the interface. Is it allowed? The answer is obviously it is allowed. See, when you take the contract, there is a contract between the car and the vehicle. Car says that I am going to implement all the methods which are there in the vehicle. But that does not mean that car can't have its own methods. Car can have its own methods. Okay, you may have one other method, say public play music. You may have a method inside that public. Let me make it as void, so that I don't have to write the return state. Void I, okay, so that I don't have to write the return state. I'm using this word void here. Otherwise, I have to write a return statement. That's why I'm using the word void. Otherwise, you can use int. Okay, there's nothing wrong. So a car can have other implementation apart from the what methods which are there. Car can have its own implementation. There is nothing wrong in that. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next important thing is can I create a reference variable of type interface. So that's a really interesting thing. Now, what do I mean by saying that? Now, if you go over here, I have created, let's say, int number. What is the data type of it? It is a number, is of type int. If I create string name, what is the data type of a name? Name is of type string. So if I say double salary, what is the data type of a salary? It is double. If I say car C, what is the type of C? C is a variable. It is of type car. Okay. C is a variable of type car. How you say that? Num is a variable of type int. Salary is a variable of type double. You also say that C is a variable of type car. What is a car? Car is a class, obviously. Is it not? Now, can I create a variable? Look at this vehicle. Vehicle is an interface. Okay. Can I create a variable of type vehicle? So the next question comes. So if I say vehicle, now I have to learn the spelling. Okay, vehicle, V. So what is V? V is a variable of type vehicle. But what is vehicle? Vehicle is a interface. Okay. What is car? What is car? Car is a class. Car is a class. What about the vehicle? Vehicle is an interface. Look at here. So you can create an interface. Now the question comes is, now you've seen this. So you create a variable of type car and you create a new instance of car. So you are familiar with that. Now I have already told you that the vehicle is an abstract. What is then what do we say? An abstract class cannot be instantiated. You have already studied about that in your previous units. So abstract class cannot be instantiated because all the methods are not there. But look at the interface, none of the methods are there. So that means you cannot instantiate a interface. I cannot write vehicle V is equal to new, let me put equal to new vehicle. I cannot put that thing. Now if I do it, NetBeans is a bit intelligent and it will say, I know what you are doing. Don't try to confuse me. I will write the method for you. Okay. Now if I do that, it is not allowed. Why it is not allowed? Remember, for class, if you look at the class car, all the methods are there. So even though I have not written any steps for those method, but those method, now assume that I have written there. So all the methods are there. But what about vehicle? None of the methods are there. There is no body for this method. There is no body for this method. That means it is incomplete. How can you instantiate something which is incomplete? Whereas if you look at the car, it is complete. Even though I am very lazy, I have not written anything. But I have given a space and say it is not doing anything. As simple as that. Okay. So when it comes to the car, it is complete. It is concrete. That is what we say. But when we look at the vehicle, it is abstract. It is incomplete. So I cannot instantiate a vehicle. That's not allowed. Okay. So now look at the thing that I'm doing. So I cannot instantiate a vehicle, but what I'm doing is I can instantiate a car, is it not? So I am going to say it is new car. So is this allowed? So look at what I am doing. Car C is equal to new car. So C is of type car. That's why you create instance of it. But V is a type vehicle. It is not, but it is given a car. Vehicle is pointing to a car. Is it allowed? Okay. The answer is it is allowed. Okay. So if a class implements a interface, okay, so this is an interface. Let me say this is an interface, and there is a class. If a class implements a interface, I can create a variable of type interface. and point to the class. So it is allowed. Okay, I can create a variable of type interface and point to a class. Remember, provided, what is very important, provided this class implement that interface. Okay, let me tell you that. Okay, suppose if I create a bike here, let's just give you an example. I'm going to create a bike here. Okay, and I am going to write a method void blow horn, let's say. Okay, assume that I have written some methods over here. This is a bike. Okay, now I'll come back to my demonstration here. So I create bike. Bike is a class. Look at here, bike is a class. Okay, it is complete. One method is there. One method is there. I won't write the whole methods because it will take 10 hours for me to complete it. Bike B is equal to new bike. So I create a bike here. It's allowed. Okay, but so look at here. I said car C is equal to car. So it's obvious. Car is there. Car C is equal to new car. Bike B is equal to new B. Then I said vehicle V, vehicle, which is an interface, equal to new car. Is there? But can I say vehicle V? Let me say vehicle V1. Let me say new one. Okay, V is equal to new bike. Can I say this? If I say this, what's going to, I'm going to get an error message saying that it is not allowed. Why? So car, when if I say vehicle V is equal to car, it is allowed for car, but it is not allowed for bike. You may say that. Why it is not allowed for bike? It is not allowed for bike because if you look at the car here, car says I am implementing vehicle. I am implementing vehicle. But if you look at the bike here, bike did said anything about that vehicle. Bike never said I will implement a vehicle. Okay, but car said I am implementing a vehicle. So very important thing. So because car said I am implementing this vehicle, I can point vehicle V to the car. Bike said I am not going to implement it, so bike cannot take it. Now if I say in the bike also, if I say implements vehicle, if I do that, implements vehicle, if I do that, and if I complete this one, let's assume that I will complete it. If I complete this whole thing, then it is allowed. Now there is no error. Why it is not allowed? Because bike is also implementing the vehicle. So as long as in a very simple way, as long as the class implements an interface, you can use the implement variable to point to the class. It's allowed. Now the question that comes is, so there is a method called as blow horn. Okay, now let me go here to this bike B and I am going to say blow horn. It's allowed. Why? B, look at this B. I'll take this one and put it here. Okay, B is bike. B is bike. Okay, in bike there is a method blow horn and I can call it. But V1, you see, V1 is pointing to bike. So if I say V1 dot, can I say blow horn? If you look at here, blow horn is not available. What is available? Change gear is available, move forward is available, move left, move right, and everything is available. But blow horn is not available. Why it is not available? Look at V1. V1 is a interface of type vehicle. Okay, so what is there in the definition of vehicle? In the definition of the vehicle, move forward is there, move backward is the left, right, change gear is there. Only these many methods are there. So only these methods are there. Where is this blow horn? Blow horn is an extra method that was added in the bike. So this is an extra method which was not there in the vehicle. So in the vehicle, if you look at this vehicle over here, in the vehicle, blow horn was not there. It was an extra thing that was added. If you look at the car here, there are two extra methods which I have added. Play music is there, blow horn is there. So if you go to the car here, if I go to the car here, and if I see dot, C dot, I can change the gear, I can blow horn, I can play music also. Why I can play music with the car? because look at here, car C is of type car, C is of type car. So it means to say that car knows that there is this method, blow horn is there, play music is there. But what about V? V is of type vehicle. So what is there in the vehicle? Only 5 methods are there. So vehicle knows only that part. If you look at the definition of the vehicle knows only these methods, but car has two extra methods. So with the car, look at here, with the car, I'm talking about this type, I'm talking about with the car you can play music. With the vehicle you cannot play music. So if you say v dot play music, you will not get that play music. So when you use the interface variable, only the definitions which are there in the interface will be only available. Can I get the, now the question, this x is there, can I get v dot x? So look at here, can I get v dot x? If you look at here, v dot x, can I get that? Okay, so int x is equal to v dot x if you write like that. Now v dot x is there, but the problem is, I put a semicolon, sorry. Okay, it is perfectly allowed. Okay, why? X is, remember, v is vehicle and vehicle x is there. Okay, is it allowed in the car? Can I get a c dot x? The next question, let me write here. Int, let me go here. Remember, I don't have to go here and type it, I can type it anywhere. But let's say int y is equal to c dot x. Can I get that thing? The answer is allowed. Now there is some minor issues are there, accessing a static field and so on. It just gives you a warning. Okay, so but it is allowed. Why it is allowed? C has said that it is implementing it. Okay, so that means it knows everything about the vehicle. It knows everything about the vehicle. It knows the x and y. C also knows it. But what about the vehicle? Vehicle does not know anything about the C. Hope you are able to get this idea. Okay. So let's come back to this one. We can declare a reference variable of type interface. So what is the meaning of that? I can create a reference variable of type interface. Remember, vehicle was the interface here. Okay, so I can create a to that thing. However, such a variable can refer to the only to the elements of the interface. It cannot get the other methods or other constants which are there within the class. Okay, so just to give an idea, so the last time I created a series. If you look at here, the series was an interface. Look at here, series was an interface, and using series I created a method. I created a class called as by2. I created a class that implements the series. So this is a class. So what I'm doing is I create a variable of type series. Remember, series was a interface, and then I create a new instance of the class, then I can get the method. So this is as simple as that. Okay, the next thing that which was obviously thing, variables which are declared in the interface must be implicitly public, static and final. Okay, why do we use this one? Why do you use the variable inside interfaces? Uh, when you create a very large program, there will be too many constants. Suppose if you want to keep all the constant at one place, like index of the array, maximum number of elements and so on, so all these constant at one place, you can place them inside an interface and then you can use them. Okay, so just to give you an example over here, so I create an interface called as I constant, and there are two constants are there, minimum and maximum and so on and so forth. It can be used for calculation later. So remember, provided the class implements that particular interface. And also by definition, by convention, many people use I in front of interface just to say that it is an interface. Otherwise people get confused. So this is a convention I have seen many people using it, and I also find it a bit easier, because when it starts with I know that it is an interface. Otherwise, people get confused with the class. Okay, just to give the idea. Okay. Now the next question is, one interface can extend the other interface. So I can create one interface and then create an extension of that particular interface. How you are extending a class by inheritance. Same idea is true. One interface can also extend the other interface. And if a class implements that one, then it has to give the definition for all of them. So just to give you an idea, so I have an interface here A. There are two methods are there within this interface. There is one more interface B. Look at this B. B extends A. That means B is building upon A, and there is one extra method for B, and that method is method 3. There is one class called as my class which implements B. Remember, B has three methods altogether. One method which is declared in B. So one method which is declared in B, and because B is extending A, it also has two other methods. So altogether there are three methods are there. So because this class, where is this class? My class implements B, it has to give the definition for all the three methods. The first method, the second method, and the third method. Remember, two methods are there in the class A. The other method is there in the B itself. So you can also have inheritance in terms of interfaces also. That's all in this class. Thank you for your interest. We will meet again in the next class. Thank you.